and welcome to the Sbn Newscast with your hosts, Scott and Kendra. As you all know, this bi-weekly newscast aims to share a digest of the latest news from Scotland, give you a roundup of what's happening in our global community, and share the stories and ambitions of the members and partners who join us on the show within our wider Sbn community. Alongside this, specifically for our members, one of our offerings at Sbn is Sbn Amplify, where we amplify your news, events, key business opportunities, insights, and your Sbn good news stories via our weekly newsletter, website, this show, our member portal, and with our PR partner at the Daily Business Group. We always do our best to capture these pieces, and we value the frequent conversations that we have with our members to hear what activity you have coming up to share and where we can be facilitating these meaningful connections with the leaders and experts within our Scottish diaspora to assist you and your business. And I really just want to encourage more of these conversations with our team and our global ambassadorial network, as there is much value in these chats for both parties. And our ambassadors and team absolutely love connecting with y'all. I'll pop my calendar link below for members who want to arrange another catch up, or if you're not a member and you want to learn more about our mission at Sbn, or you're considering joining Sbn, drop your contact details in the apply link and we will give you a call so that we can understand your business and discuss where we can drive value to you and your business.
But before we get started today, we're going to run down some of the things that have been happening across the Sbn community the past 2 weeks. Michael McCuish was the contributor to Daily Business this week as he wrote a piece on how targeted PR is a vital route to the US market. We'll hear a little bit more from Michael later. The Net Zero Nation podcast has got off to a running start. There are 4 episodes to catch up on now as Gavin and James cover the greening of Fort William, the 2045 tartan, as well as a fascinating conversation with 2 aircraft engineer apprentices about their generation's say in building a low-carbon future. Andrew Morrison's LinkedIn Live last week focused on 9 suggestions on how to effectively manage bids and tenders during the busy holiday period, so you can check that out by connecting with Andrew on LinkedIn. There's some massive congratulations in order for Karen Somerville of Angel Sear Glass, as she was announced as a finalist for the Small Business Entrepreneur of the Year at the Great British Entrepreneur Awards. So good luck to Karen. Speaking of awards, the IOD Scotland Director of the Year Awards are now open for entries. There are 12 main categories, so if there is business leaders you've been impressed by, you can get their nominations in using the link in the description of this video. Sbn Ambassador Karen Lee Anderson has been sharing the word about Man Health, an organisation dedicated to supporting men with mental health issues such as depression. They're looking for some NEGs to join their high-impact, award-winning social enterprise board. Check out the link in the description as well to learn more about this exciting and truly impactful opportunity. Other exciting news, AEI Employability announced this week they've had a bit of a facelift. The company, which started as Adopt an Intern in 2009, has grown in scope and expertise over the years, supporting clients across the UK to reach talent, and it's also branched out into social impact, diversity and inclusion. So check out their brand new website to see some of the great work on the impactful projects they've been working on the past 12 years. In international news, Tom Thomas, our ambassador in Bangalore, continues his India Weekly Update series. If you check out the Sbn website and newsletter every Friday, you can see Tom's roundup about the latest news from Karnataka and India as a whole. That was for news, though. There's been plenty of events for people to stick their teeth into. Last week, the University of the Highlands and Islands continued their Leadership Perspectives series as they interviewed international best-selling crime author Peter May. So that was a fascinating discussion. Maggie's Charity as well, they held a really interesting conversation with renowned sculptor Sir Anthony Gormley as he chatted to journalist, presenter and author Kirsty Wark about what matters in the making and the presentation of art. It was a really fascinating discussion. The events that have happened, but there's a few more to keep an eye out for in the coming summer weeks. London Scotch Rugby are hosting a lunch on July 23rd to give those retiring from their roles a fitting and celebratory sign-off. If you want to attend the lunch, which is being hosted at the Caledonian Club in London, you can find the details about how to get tickets and the links in the description of this video. And finally, our friends at Africa Scotland Business Network have launched their Energy Technology event series. This is going to be a 5-part weekly conference every Thursday at midday, which is going to offer insights. It's going to feature great speakers, leading tech, and networking within a range of topics, all under the banner of energy, technology, and transition. They hosted the first one yesterday, and it's going to be running for the next 5 weeks. But there's more to look out for this summer, and I'm going to leave that to our guests for the day to talk more about it.
Yes, we're delighted to welcome Director of PR and Customer Relations in North America for Away from the Ordinary and Public Relations Consultant, Michael McCuish.
Hi there.
Michael.
Hello, thanks very much for having me. Hello from New York.
How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you very much. It's very warm here, so my Scottish skin is trying to adjust to 34 degrees heat on the regular. Could be worse, but also makes me feel like I'm melting most days.
We'll send some of that over here. Now, this is your second time joining Scott and I, but for those of you that missed your cameo, do you want to tell us a little bit more about you and the work that you do?
Sure. So my name's Michael, as Kendra said. Primarily I work with Away from the Ordinary. We're a bespoke travel company based in Scotland. The CEO, myself, Inez Sahara. We do fully tailored travel to Scotland, which means we talk to our clients, we found out their wants and their needs, and we build a fully customized itinerary around that. We like to specialize in things that are kind of behind the curtain, maybe the types of things that you wouldn't really get the opportunity to do if you didn't know someone in the industry. Kind of a at night distillery tour or kind of behind the rope tour of the Royal Yacht Britannia, just these little special things. And we also like to really help people connect with Scotland and with the culture. So it's not just about kind of coming over to Scotland and doing like a really quick 5-day trip and then ticking all the boxes. It's about slow travel, about people really connecting to our home too. So our primary demographic or market is in the US, which is why I'm based out here. But we also get lots of customers from other parts of the world.
I like that concept that you mentioned of slow travel as well. It's such a nice way to put it. And the last time that you joined us, you shared some of the ways that the team at Away from the Ordinary were customizing the offering to engage and grow your community, especially when travel and in-person engagements were restricted, and you quickly moved your offering online and brought on board like whiskey and gin pairing with chocolate, cheese, and Scottish films and artists. Can you tell us a little bit more about those online sessions and what it's been like operating as a travel company during this time?
Sure. It's been fascinating. Of course, just like everyone else, it's been traveling, but it's been challenging. But I think a lot of that challenges or the difficulties have really bred a type of innovation in a lot of different industries. And the CEO, Inez, and I, we saw an opportunity pretty much straight away as soon as it started to lock down that people were really missing those connections to international cultures. We wanted to find a way to make sure that Scottish culture stayed connected with people around the world. And virtual whiskey tastings just made sense for us. Inez is such a passionate and advocate for the culture and for the spirit itself. It meant that we got to drink lots of whiskey, can't really argue with that. We got to meet lots of people from around the world who were all stuck at home and hungry for some kind of experience. So we started hosting these online tastings for individuals who were maybe celebrating birthdays on different sides of the world. And then it became more successful with corporate groups. So people who were looking to kind of thank their team or keep their team together. And it's much easier to keep a happy team when you fill them full of whiskey. So we had a really good opportunity with a lot of international companies where we would do virtual tastings with them and introduce them to Scottish whiskey. And then that kept growing from there, and that was luckily very successful. A fully immersive experience where you would be drinking whiskey and watching a Scottish film with something relevant connecting the two. So that was a lot of fun. That involved me watching a lot of Scottish films and drinking a lot of whiskey. So a good way to spend a pandemic.
And you've got a lot of the whiskey there behind yourself, so you're well stocked up, and it's good that you were able to explore that digital space, and there was value for you to grow as a company. And your expertise and your role at Away from the Ordinary is around driving awareness of Scotland as a destination in the US. And you do this so well, sporting coverage in outlets such as Forbes, Insider, Travel Weekly, and many more. And you've recently shared your expertise in an article with the Daily Business Group on how to effectively raise your profile in the US. How much significance should be placed on media relations when an organization is looking to build a presence in the US?
I think it's massive. I think the way to think about it, it's advocacy. So editorial means you are being that publication is almost helping promote you. Whereas paid for advertising, a lot of the time, people are very savvy now. Customers are very savvy. They see that that's paid for. It's not an endorsement. What editorial is, it's almost like an endorsement from one of their favorite brands or one of their favorite publications. So if they see you covered in Travel and Leisure, it's almost like Travel and Leisure saying that this is a good company. And these are people who have read Travel and Leisure for maybe 20 years, so really trust what they have to say. And I think it's hugely important for any company that's considering coming into the US. It should be one of your number one priorities. Plus awareness, it raises awareness of your brand. I think a lot of people forget that just the sheer noise and scale of one of the biggest markets in the world, which is the US. So you really want to get in front of people, but it has to be the right people with the right message. And a great PR campaign is the best way to do that. And we've been really lucky. We have a great story to tell. Scotland has such a great story to tell. So as much as I want to take credit for a lot of the great publications that we've been to, a lot of that was just because the story spoke for itself. And we have a lot of great stories to tell. So we've been lucky.
You've got great stories. I love following you on social media and reading your articles as well. And we'll include a link to the article that you did in the Daily Business group as well, because you share some great insights. And if people are watching this, I encourage you to connect with Michael for a conversation. It would be highly valuable to do so. And
I would say we also use this to full effect too. So bribery with good Scottish alcohol. So this is all gin behind us because we also do gin tasting. So if you're looking to bribe someone with good alcohol, also very valuable, always works.
Good advice. And is there anything on the horizon with Away from the Ordinary that our audience should be aware of, or how do we keep posted on your events and posts and what's going on?
It's a good question because we've been kind of dynamically growing. And the one thing the pandemic's done is it limited what we could offer, but it really magnified our reach. All of a sudden, we were growing the number of people that we were talking to. And the virtual tastings really helped that. And from that, we're having really a whole lot of inquiries about people wanting to come on holidays to Scotland. It's great. So we're seeing that come back in. Our whiskey tastings are still going, but we'll probably be doing more face-to-face whiskey tastings in the future. And we've just launched our gin tastings, which I do as well, which is all about the narrative behind good Scottish coastal gin, where we talk more about the story than just about the kind of the tastings themselves, the stories about where this gin comes from. And that's proven to be very popular for us too. So it's kind of like a three-pronged approach. And in terms of where to see what we're up to, we're very active on Instagram in terms of Away from the Ordinary, and LinkedIn as well, working with the great people at the Scottish Business Network as well. So always a good way to keep us tied in. And then just get in touch. We're always really happy to hear from anyone who thinks we can either work together or just wants to learn a little bit more, or just have a good Scottish blether. That's always on the card, especially if we can get a whiskey or a gin at the same time.
Well, thank you for joining us, and we'll put the links for Away from the Ordinary in the description as well, and encourage people to connect with you. And thanks for joining us. It was great to have you dialing in from New York.
Lovely. Well, if anyone's visiting New York anytime soon, I can guarantee you I have a good few number of cocktail bars that I can help show anyone around. And if anyone has any media relations, especially linked media relations questions, especially linked to the US, please don't hesitate to get in touch because I'm here and I'm always happy to help.
And we'll be pointing people your way, Michael. Thank you so much. Thanks.
Lovely. Thank you, Cheerio, for now.
Bye.
Well, I'm delighted to welcome our next guest, Dave Stewart. Hi, Dave. Thanks for joining us today.
My pleasure. Nice to see you.
Excellent. How about we start with an introduction? Who's Dave and who is the Fresh Air Leadership Company?
Okay, so I'm Dave Stewart. I'm the founder and managing director of the Fresh Air Leadership Company. And if we exchange emails, I'll come up as Fresh Air Dave. Now, I only discovered this about a year into having that email handle, but it's kind of stuck and it's quite nice. So Fresh Air Dave, and it's the Fresh Air Leadership Company. And kind of what we do is we handle ourselves as creating bespoke thinking experiences for leaders and teams in amazing Scottish spaces. That's how we position ourselves.
Yes, you're one to follow on all the social media channels because some of the photos are just absolutely stunning. And as a person who's been in self-isolation for the last 2 weeks, makes me very jealous.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so, well, how about we start? So we're in the thick of the Scottish summer, and we've got beaming sun, occasional torrential rain, and of course, midges. So I imagine in a space like yours, it's a key time for outdoor workshops, and you've mentioned these amazing Scottish places. So is this the sort of thing you've seen a demand for now we're into the middle of July?
Strangely enough, hitherto summer was a quiet period, but obviously coming out of lockdown, people are emerging into the outdoors, and our pipeline is going a bit bonkers. We're now in a position that we're far better than we were when we went into lockdown, and there's probably a whole bunch of reasons around that. Obviously, well, not obviously, but what we're picking up is that people seem to have a binary view of the workspace. It's either home or the office, or maybe the third workspace is Zoom, okay, or Teams or whatever. But we're promoting the outdoors as a safe, sort of a COVID-safe fourth workspace, because it's a place where people can come together now that the rules have been relaxed and actually meet each other in 3 dimensions for the first time. And that's a phrase a lot of people are using. So it's really good for business, and we're supporting lots of clients in this way.
Yeah, I like that, meeting in 3D for the first time. So, and I know we're going to touch on this slightly later, but I can imagine as well, it's teams that have grown in the last year. They might be meeting colleagues for the first time. But I just wanted to ask on those outdoor workshops, I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about what these ambitious leaders could expect from one of your outdoor sessions. Okay, so we're driven by the client's needs, and based on that, we will select a place that will best serve their requirements. And it's not always outdoors. So sometimes it could be, say, the boardroom of a supplier, if that's kind of where the issue to be explored is. So place is really important, but it's that we're kind of known for the outdoors, when we do, say, a workshop, it's essentially a workshop that you might have in the boardroom or a hotel training room, but we take it outdoors. And the outdoors is an amazingly stimuli-rich environment, and we can pick or use that resource in all sorts of creative ways. And I think one thing that people need to understand is that we're not in any way hard. We're not dangling people off cliffs. We're not hugging trees. We're not eating witchy grubs. It's a workshop with a real business purpose, and we create and use the landscape in ways that promote divergent and convergent thinking. There's quite a lot of stuff goes on under the bonnet, but people will come away from the workshop with their minds having shifted. They'll get to know each other in different and more kind of courageous ways, and people always go away with a kind of real buzz. And of course, we're trying to create an unforgettable experience so that their insights are kind of grounded or anchored in memories of that day. So that's kind of what we're talking about. Brilliant, yeah, and I've seen some of the case studies on your website as well, which I implore everyone to check out. The sort of it's almost the surprise I think a lot of people get when they think, oh, we like talking and hiking, but then it's the way that you manage to delve into particular issues or open up lines of communication between people that I've always been very impressed by.
Yeah, what we find is quite often in the workplace, people kind of leave themselves at home, and this is kind of pre-COVID, and they will kind of behave to their job spec persona. And it's kind of true. I think it was the MD of Marks and Spencer's once said, "Why do people leave themselves at home when they come to work?" But when people come with us in the outdoors, it's a kind of almost a leveling space. The office politics sort of melt away. People's biochemistry changes when they move through awesome landscapes, and they become more themselves. And we've got a whole bunch of exercises which help them tell their stories or share their stories with their colleagues. And you're right, there's a surprise around how doable a workshop is, but there's a real surprise about discovering each other almost for the first time in a way that wasn't possible through traditional ways of operating the workplace.
Yeah, I can imagine. I like that quote. Why do people leave themselves at home when they come to work? I've never thought about that, but it makes sense. So I wanted to ask you a little bit about how the market's changed. You made comment about the fact that your pipeline's almost exploded to levels above what it was pre-COVID and pre-lockdown. I was wondering if the market's changed and you've seen a change in demand from what customers and clients are looking for.
Yes, so certainly one of the things that struck us is we'll offer a proposal, and there's a sense that we used to have a sense that people were wanting some sort of a deep intervention that would help them solve some strategic issue, and that was certainly the case pre-COVID. But what we're spotting now is people are kind of exhausted, and they want to come out with us and just almost chill and get to know each other. And you mentioned, people get recruited during lockdown and they're meeting people for the first time. There's something around getting to know each other again, getting to meet new people for the first time, and almost having a very light social sort of event, not fun and fizz in the sense of silly games, but just having space to be with each other and get to know each other, and just almost sort of disclose to each other the level of exhaustion, but also tap into the hope for the future. So it's a different dynamic, and hopefully this is going to be a passing phase where people recharge and then get back to a slightly higher octane way of working. So that's what we're noticing.
Yeah, I like that sort of the fun and fizz, because the experience is going to be so much more memorable than it would be, say, how about we all go out for dinner and we get some drinks? Because that's almost, especially coming out of lockdown, that was the only option because big gatherings weren't really the thing. So having this environment for new staff must help for, to sound cheesy, make more memories as well, I suppose, because it lasts.
Yeah, and I think how many times have people been on an off-site and it's been the same thing? They've had a bit of a kind of workshop. They've got pissed in the bar night, and of course they do it every year. They do it every quarter, and it becomes sort of here we go again sort of thing. The other thing we've spotted, you mentioned staff there, is the desire for teams to come out with staff, and it becomes almost like an engagement. It is an engagement exercise. So recently we had a leadership team that brought their wider team out to explore or re-examine what is the purpose, what is our purpose, what really are our values, and where are we going. So it was almost like a major reset, and they engaged their staff. And of course, we've had some recent high-profile issues around some big, fast-growing companies where there's been a sort of allegations of toxic cultures and a lack of real engagement. And I think people are maybe spotting those kind of stories and saying, right, we need to get our people together and have a kind of real and rich conversation with each other. And I think that's a real positive. So we were kind of noticing that as well, sort of engagement, but also just checking in with each other. Are we all right? But also, re-examining, well, where are we taking this company now? But engaging everybody on that discussion. Fantastic.
It's fantastic. I'm sure you've heard some very interesting conversations over the years, Dave. So I wanted to touch a little bit about sort of what you've got going on just now. I know there's a variety of programs and excursions that you do, but what have you got planned for the rest of the summer? Is there anything that the sort of wider community can get involved with?
So first of all, we're running a series of monthly what we call fresh air business walks. So these are completely free. We're running them in and around the Central Belt, but we're running them in some amazing places: the Campsie Fells, Loch Lomond, the Falkland Estate in Fife, the Ochil Hills, all sorts of wonderful places that we're within an hour from central belt locations. And these are free. Come along. It's a chance to meet us in a sense, but it's also a chance just to connect with each other in a creative outdoor environment. And it's 3 hours of doable walking, lots of chit chat, and it's a service we're offering. So do connect with that. We're obviously running a lot of workshops for companies, and this is really picking up pace. The other couple of services that we're doing are what we call fresh air leader treks. So these are multi-day hotel hopping treks through, again, amazing countryside. And again, the emphasis on doable and the emphasis on being able to move at a pace that allows people to talk in a rich sense. And we have a thing called decelerators, which people will call off-sites or retreats, but it's not really about lettuce and yoga. It's about slowing down and having those conversations. And that's basically based around a firm base, not like a trek from multi locations, but it's a firm base, maybe 2 or 3 days. So those are the things we're doing. But really encourage listeners and watchers to come out with us on these fresh air business walks. They're free. They're pretty local, and we'd love to meet everybody.
Yeah, and again, the case studies on your website are terrific for people who want to sort of hear what it's been like firsthand. So what's going on, Dave? How do people get in touch? What's the best way to reach you, follow what you're doing as well as the company?
Okay, so connect with me directly. I'm sure there's an email or a phone number attached to this post, but the email address is dave@freshairleadership.com. I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Instagram, on Facebook, I'm on Twitter, and just get in touch and just let's have a chat about the sort of issues you are facing and perhaps how we, in our kind of slightly different way, can actually help you get through those and get to reach for those possibilities that are beyond the problems that you're experiencing just now.
Terrific. Well, I just want to say to Dave, thank you very much for joining us.
Well, my pleasure, and thanks again for all the amazing work that Scottish Business Network does.
Thanks again to our guests today, Michael and Dave.
Yep, and for all those out there, if you want to learn more about SBN, as Kendra said, you can get in touch on the Scottish Business Network website. And if you want to learn more about membership and maybe come on this show, you can find the links on that in the details below this video. But for now, thank you very much, everyone, for watching.
Bye.
Bye.